Mm-hmm. So, here we are then, huh? I guess we are an hour late. It would be great to start at 7. Didn't manage to do that now. I guess I doxed myself. This is my, yes, I admit it, this is my Mastodon account. For those of you who didn't know yet. I had this name for a long time. And, yeah, I don't mind. So, doesn't look like there's chat. There's nobody here. So, I'm gonna just do it like on a simple level. Can I still like manage the recording? Is there a way to like change the title of a recording? Like change the title of a broadcast on YouTube after it already started? I think that's a good question. Oh yeah, that picture still works. Live. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I can change the broadcast now that we're here. But we're here. So yeah, if you are watching, it'd be great if you say something. What are we going to work on today? What are we going to go through? There's some news I want to do. I'm going through the 7 stages of grief. So, why is that so important? Yes, this is brave. I shouldn't be using it. This is about not giving in to shock and awe. Don't give in to shock and awe. 7 stages of grief. First you have shock, and then denial. Right, so I want to show you about people being in denial. What does denial look like? And for that, we're going to go to Mastodon. And I think it makes sense to just scroll the main. So when people are saying, oh, I'm going to just like lay in bed for 4 years, where's that? Here. This is a good example of denial. Hold up. If people are talking about let's search for this posts. Oh. Yeah, okay. It's one of those mornings where I just want to stay in bed for 4 years. Why? What do you think is going to happen in 4 years, especially if you stay in bed about it? You think there's going to be elections? And you think there's going to be like free and fair elections that will give you an opportunity to change the system, or to give you a chance to like elect what, AOC 2028? Is that your game plan here? Because yeah, this for me, this is copium. It's copium. But that's I'm not trying to judge. Okay, I don't want to judge people because it's just denial. We're just in denial at this point. So that's what I'm saying. First, it's the shock. The shock. That's why. Why does Musk do the Nazi salute? Why does he seek Heil? In order to get you extra shocked. It's like, but this can't be happening. Denial. And then maybe anger. And then, So what I want you to do is don't go down this list. Don't go anger, okay, bargaining, depression. No, anger, and then you veer off. From here, you veer off out of the grief cycle, and you go into action. You go into organizing. You get angry, okay, great. Then you realize that angry is not going to solve it. Instead of bargaining, you do collective bargaining. Unionize, organize, and go on strike. What I think would be a good idea now to do is to go on strike. Make a big general strike. Stop paying your taxes, stop paying rent, stop going to work, and leave the city. Yeah. You'd be like, okay, 4 years, then really, like, go lay low for 4 years. Like, drop out. Tune in, turn on, drop out. That's what I'm going to say about the 4 years thing. And I'm kind of hoping that there's going to be... yeah. Well, so the thing is, the problem with organizing a general strike in the United States right now would have to be what's going to be the most difficult part of organizing a strike in the United States at this moment is the fact that you need to communicate with each other. And the communication network is already taken over, privatized, run by the machine. A great example to me is Twitch. Of course, we find each other on Twitch. There's Hasanabi, Ugopnik, they're doing a great job. But who owns Twitch? There's no, I think that this admonishment that you cannot break down the master's house using the master's tools, I think that's accurate. That's also why I'm not planning to stay on YouTube. I'm not going to stay on YouTube. This CEO of Google or of Alphabet was also on at the inauguration. So they are there. They're there. The FBI director, the new FBI director said, we inaugurated a dynasty. They're really planning to make a dynasty there. To just hand to establish a new feudalism. And that's why this channel is back, baby. Because the last time I was seriously streaming under the re-orient flag was during Corona. And this seems like a similarly intense time. At least I find it very intense. Call me paranoid, but I'm going wild about it. And it's not that... And it helps me to stream. I need it. It helps me to stay sane. All right? That's all. That's why I do this. You don't have to like it. You don't have to watch. I'm doing this for me. Does that make some sense? I think so. So, post, and I'm gonna find out where to. Okay, so this is where we are at. This is where we are at. This is, we're streaming me scrolling Substack right now. Okay. So here's an interesting person, always interesting on Substack. Caitlin Johnston. Somebody who many people say, oh, she's a Russian plant or a Putin, paid by Putin. And, Russell Brand is a fan, which is also kind of turned into a red flag at some point. I don't know if I managed to keep up with culture war stuff well, but there we go. She says, the world is ruled by religious fanatics with nukes. If a normal person says they're the second coming of Jesus Christ, they get medicated and institutionalized. If you make equally insane religious claims on the Senate floor, they let you run an empire. The Anti-Defamation League has published a statement defending Elon Musk's use of blatant Nazi salutes at What's-His-Face's inauguration rally, saying he made an awkward gesture in a moment of enthusiasm, saying that everyone should take a breath. Cool their jets. So yeah, whenever they say what is anti-Semitism, of course, but everybody's already said this. Why am I going over it again? I'm going over it again because I'm reading you Substack posts, and in this case, Caitlin Johnston. So I really like her stuff. Yeah, I think she's been solid the whole time. She's been right on top with an open heart about Palestine. She's been there every day, and I think it's very difficult to say that you do think that she's a Putin plant or something just because she's against Biden, and she is against Biden. She was against Biden and Kamala the whole time. Yes, she was, but it's so what I'm noticing on Rednote. So here's another platform that is being newly discovered in a way. Xiaohongshu. Up. My browser is letting me translate it, which is great. The comments. When it comes to comments, people are posting comments. At least it looks like there are bots, that there are Republican or conservative bots. Hello. Okay, I follow you. I saw Candace Owens try to get an account on here. Let's find her. Is it Candice? Sorry, am I wrong about how to write it? This one. But it doesn't look like she has an account, because I'm not getting the hits. But I read this. So here, you see she tried to make an account. So she had an account for a moment. I think she got blocked already. And here we see people. Oh, I guess you can't see because my mug is here. So, saying here, oh, we love Kansas. Who is we? Nobody. You're not following anything. So you have a completely new account here that has one follow. And they show up here and they say, we love Candace, and it has 150. Don't listen, dear Chinese people. We love her. Gen X auntie from TikTok. We love her. World peace. So let's find out. We love Candace, says Leslie from Idaho. Let's see if Leslie from Idaho is a human being. I think she's getting better. I've unfortunately been agreeing with her recently, lol. That kind of sounds more like human. Yeah, that's going to be... who is she? I haven't heard. Candace Owens is the best, and she's very truthful. Ari Mald 44 for... She's very truthful and the best. Okay, yeah. Who is she? We don't. She's horrible. She's not terrible. She has her own opinions. What has she done that's so bad? Well, she's grifting. What? Anyway, okay. I love Candace Owens. From Tennessee. Bizarre to love her and be on here. Ratio. Very good. Hello. Talk about a contradiction. I'm shocked how many maggots are on here. She's banned from entering certain countries. Candace Owens is an amazing woman. Says a guy who posts body pics. You've got Cheeto dust on your bum and all over your lips. She's an excellent Christian woman. Says Mary Logan Crook. Crook? She's not the kind of person you want here. Yeah, very good. So let's find out. I guess you're consistently the same person and you have cats. How could I tell if you were actually human at this point? No, you seem human. Yeah, the AI videos are not there yet.
And moving to. I never even posted a video when I was on TikTok, but I guess I'll post it here. See if are there any other old farts on here yet? Just me. Anyway.
You seem cute. I'm sure you're great. Okay, well, maybe you mean it. Oh, maybe I should follow her. Like, hold on, reopen a tab. Just follow her. Yeah, we'll see. How about you, Leslie? Cat tax. Cat tax is good. Looks like the same person. From Idaho. What does she say?
Refugee, coming here to find my people, and just wanted to say thank you for having us.
Fair enough.
So, what do you do for work? Do you like it? Do you like it? How many siblings do you have? Oh, you have a lot. You have a lot.
Okay, you're kind of funny. You're kind of funny and a human being. So interesting. I'm not... Cat tax. I'm not making any judgments, but this is... Who knows? Who knows? There's no way to tell if this is true. If this is really somebody. But there's a cat. Oh, that's why they do it. They do like, they show up and they have like their very cute dog. Suspiciously cute dog. I'm calling it. This is a robot. She's a robot. That dog is not her real dog. That's too sweet. Too sweet. That's why she has some followers. And then what does she does? Oh, we love Candace Owens. That's her contribution to the whole conversation, alright? Where do we find her other comments she posted? We don't find them? This guy also hoping to make some new friends 2 years ago. Is this a video? No, it's just a picture. Okay. I believe that you're a real human who really means what they're saying. And what you're saying is that you like Candace Owens. Yeah, you're probably not being paid to do that. You probably genuinely believe it. Fair enough. This is... why do you show up to say something positive about Candace Owens on Rednote? Anyway, enough with the crazy culture war shit. I'm the one wasting my time on it. Because we don't need to... I'm just trying to point... I'm just trying to point out that we should be expecting like a full spectrum class war that will try to drag you into a culture war to not fight the class war. I think that classic meme here is is exactly what we need to keep in mind. Class war, not culture war. Okay, that is the point here. They got you fighting a culture war to stop you from fighting a class war. Yeah, this is the game. This is the game that we are in. And I like Rednote. I was never into TikTok. I thought it was distraction and silly, but Rednote, it seems better. It doesn't have this dumbing down stuff in it so much. There's Luigi posting. Oh yeah, we can go and check out how cooked TikTok is. But people already know if you post. Sound. If you post, yes, TikTok is back, but it's Trump talk now. If you try to post Free Luigi or Free Palestine, it just gets blocked. Even though that was like the main content on there for many people. So TikTok is now also a hateful MAGA platform. And I think, you know what I think? Most of these MAGAs that you find online, it's skin deep, you know. They're looking for an identity. They're looking for somewhere to belong. They don't really mean it. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. They're not genuinely that invested. They're just really alone and looking for belonging and feeling like to be part of something bigger that is making a difference in the world. And the idea of a MAGA identity is offering that, like in a corrupted, gross way, unconscious, fake way. But that's because the desire is unconscious. But if you make your desire conscious, that you make your desire for belonging and connection and consequence, and co-creating reality. If you feel that, if you realize that desire on a conscious level, then you are going to do it. Yeah, and that fact, the fact that you are going to do it, is what is just the heartwarming bit. That's the wholesome bit. That's the thing that will change everything. And that's why I'm happy to get over my own, get over my self-cringe. I had a lot of self-cringe going on for a while. And I was like, oh, that's why I thought about not doing this. But I'm going to be doing this. Yeah, I'm going to be doing this. It's time to do this. Okay, America's cultural awareness. Let's hear it.
It's the fact that you can tell this is some American people's first time realizing that there are other cultures and countries outside of the United States.
You can end the video there, sister. It's
That's wild.
Oh, you are doing that. It is wild. Yes, you're right. It is absolutely wild. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh. Here we go. This is definitely one of those American trolls, MAGA trolls. Yeah. No? Oh, it's just okay. It really is just brain rot stuff. Okay. Oh, did they go straight back to TikTok? Did you just go away? Maybe. What am I learning to do here? To discover the simple pleasures of like a relatively wholesome program. Oh, that's such a synchronicity. Look at this, look at this. The microphone. Oh, sorry. That was brutal. I just was trying to figure out my... I have this one. Yeah. So maybe I stay. Maybe I stay on Rednote. Maybe I plan to move to China. You know what? I'm just gonna go prepare to move to China. I have some roots there. There's something in it for me. It would be a whole thing to learn Mandarin, though. So, yeah, it's 8:21. I have some music stuff on here, you know, I follow music. Oh, Eminote is in here. Great. Practice your inversions, everybody. She's just reposting Instagram. Or anyway.
You know you can't post fake science videos, right? Ugh, I know. Well, did you know that you can't pretend to be a doctor without a degree? Whew! You can't flaunt your money. Thank fuck for that. You have to think of others when purchasing stuff. You can't pretend to be somebody else. Having to be authentic and real? Oh my god. They don't like it when you're trying to become a billionaire or part of the ruling class and focus more on building community. I know, isn't it great?
Exactly. It's base. That's what it is. Am I being cringe? Excellent. Cringe harder. It's good. Smarter Americans stay on XHS.
Hello, American refugees. Oops, sorry. I meant TikTok refugees. For those of you who are still here, I'm so glad you stuck around. I know it's a big day for you there in America.
I'm really
Well,
shocked
here in
how
China,
good the English
just
is.
like any other regular Monday. In the past few days, so much have happened on this platform, and it's kind of exciting, isn't it? Now that TikTok is back, are you thinking what your next door neighbor is thinking?
Should I stay or should I go?
Well, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You get to elect your president, we don't. Shit, should I say that here? But as a neuroscience fanatic, aka Dr. Andrew Huberman's #1 Chinese fan, and a proud female entrepreneur, I just want to say, after the ban, the smart Americans came to Xiaohongshu, but now the smarter Americans are here to stay. Hear me out. First of all, TikTok is a wild card. Well, not as wild as your two-time president, of course. I guess comebacks are just a thing now there in America. No one knows how this is going to play out. There's a 50-50 chance TikTok won't be around anymore, while Xiaohongshu, on the other hand, just like that good Chinese kid in your class, will most likely get it right. Secondly, we all know TikTok is fun, but it's also causing a lot of brain rot. I'm not saying Xiaohongshu isn't. I mean, it's a social media platform after all. But lucky for American folks, this social media platform, unlike TikTok, might actually make you smarter. Whether it's taking a deep dive into the Chinese culture, or picking up a TCM hack to cure your kid's lingering cough. And all of you who are trying to learn Mandarin, come on, I applaud you on that. And you know who else is plotting? Your brain. With all those new things happening, all your brain cells and chemicals are throwing a party.
They are.
Well, not like those drunken cunt you do on a night out with your college friends. I'm talking about those with, you know, the friendly, non-alcoholic drinks, organic and gluten-free snacks. Not to mention all the good dopamine you're getting, which allows you to skip those icy cold plunges. So yay, high five! And lastly, this is where it gets really interesting. I know for a lot of you, TikTok is not just a place to, you know, scroll for content, but it represents a
You're being encouraged to have like neuroplasticity here.
real source of income. Unfortunately, the Chinese audience don't have the same paying habit when it comes to content. There's no ad revenue share here. They probably should think about that. But as you probably have figured out by now, Xiaohongshu is much more than just content. It is the #1 social e-commerce platform here in China, and perhaps soon, I don't know, maybe in the world as well. So it's nice to be connecting here, but the real smart Americans are not just posting content, and definitely not selfies. I mean, I know the logo look kind of similar, but this is Xiaohongshu, not Tinder. Back to the smart. So what are they doing? They're doing market research, they're finding business opportunities, they're trying to see what is up and coming in China that's not popular yet in America that they could potentially import, or they can also investigate on what Chinese people really like about what you guys have over there that's not already here. Basically, there's a lot of business to do here. So yeah, welcome, stay for some tea or just hot water, and let's make it fun.
So Substack, meanwhile, stuff is going up here on Substack. There's chats. What a wild thing this is. So I have a long thread on Substack, on a chat, inside a chat on Lolo's Substack thing. And that is somehow, yeah, with just my thoughts about the whole tactical, about the whole tactical situation. About not trusting Signal. What's the latest post? How about Snicket? I don't know what it is. Just made an account. People made a Matrix account. What the hell is Matrix? Yeah, Matrix. Okay. I don't know. What do I want to say? Oh yeah, I'm a Luigi Truther. That's one thing I want to say. I'm gonna make a little post about that. Devices where you have a little pull tab to get the batteries out. He put that pull tab there so we can reset the system. Yeah, there we go. That's a good post. Hold on. I need to get better at that. Yeah. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. Yes. Oh, we can play this? Substack is so good.
Is this our last chance? How did we get here and how do we get out? By Scarlett. End quote. It's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism, end quote. Mark Fisher, Capitalist Realism. Donald Trump was sworn in for his second term 2 days ago, as of this writing. This election, he saw a sweep of all 7 swing states, and a win of the popular vote not accomplished by any Republican since 2004. Many are wondering, how could this have possibly happened? To understand this historic loss, you need only look at Biden's tenure. Biden's term began with a signature bill that would have made public colleges free, mandated paid sick leave, created a climate corps, and invested billions in infrastructure. In true Democrat fashion, this bill, that would have built out a robust welfare state, was scuttled by a year of capitulation to Republicans in the name of a long-since-dead bipartisanship, and then killed entirely at the whims of 2 Democratic senators who played their roles as villain well, naturally protecting the interests of capital in the process. The American people then saw every half-decent bill for the rest of Biden's term fail to pass due to the filibuster, a Senate rule that could be revoked with a simple majority, that Democrats showed more allegiance to than their own constituents. After a disappointing first 2 years, the second 2 became about foreign policy, namely Israel. After the Palestinian resistance waged a strike against Israel on October 7, 2023, Israel responded with overwhelming force on the innocent people of Gaza, dropping the equivalent of 4 nuclear bombs on the area over the course of 14 months, while Americans who protested got beaten by cops, smeared by politicians anti-Semitic, and lied to over and over again by the State Department. Wave after wave of bills passed the House and Senate, who could never seem to manage to pass anything for the American people regarding anti-Semitism and Israel. Legislation attempting to classify any criticism of Israel as anti-Semitism, allowing agencies to strip funding of groups who criticize Israel, allowing schools to target individuals who criticize Israel, became the single-minded priority of our public servants, while our social media feeds were bombarded with images of dismembered children that were blown apart by the bombs our tax dollars pay for. While inflation skyrocketed at home and grocery prices increased 30% or more, rent reached the highest levels in American history, the prices of new and used cars went up enormously, billions upon billions of dollars was shipped to Israel and Ukraine as Democrats made, "You aren't really struggling. You don't even know how good you have it," their mantra. This was the backdrop of this election, and played no small part in the outcome. Add to that Biden's signs of aging and incoherence becoming increasingly obvious, to the point that it resulted in a late withdrawal from the presidential race, far too late to democratically choose a successor, and a replacement to the role in Kamala Harris. When Harris was announced as the nominee in August, the enthusiasm by the average liberal was palpable. Yet only a few weeks later, after many, many unforced errors, that enthusiasm waned as Harris made it clear that she would do nothing different with regards to Gaza, that she didn't have a vision for the future, and that she didn't really believe in anything at all. All of this converged to create the perfect conditions to bring an aging charlatan, fake populist like Donald Trump back to the White House. Is This Bad is a reader-supported publication. To receive new posts and support my work, consider becoming a free or paid subscriber. So why did so many people choose to vote for a man who promised mass deportations, ending birthright citizenship, and invading Mexico and Canada? Why did so many liberals stay home? To understand this, you must understand how liberalism ultimately always trends towards this outcome when there is no countervailing force. The Democratic Party in particular has spent the last 40 years implementing a program of neoliberal austerity on the working class, the unions, the poor, that used to be their base. With the influence of big money in politics and unlimited spending in elections, Democrats have become a party of, by, and for the ruling class. Since Carter, Democrats have repeatedly sided with bosses and refused to create a robust welfare state that would materially help the working class. The only bills that manage to get passed in Congress are bills to fund the war machine or to further the upward transfer of wealth, now at $50 trillion from the bottom to the top in the last several decades. While Democrats have failed to offer a program to the working class, the Republican Party has become a party of demagogues, taking the deteriorating material conditions they and the Democrats are responsible for and using them to direct that anger towards a convenient scapegoat. Immigrants, trans people, the villain du jour, the GOP is nothing if not successful in harnessing the righteous anger of working people and directing it at other portions of the exploited instead of their true enemies. Fascism, with all its forcefulness in the prosecution of its violent deeds, is indeed nothing else but the expression of the disintegration and decay of capitalist economy and the symptom of the dissolution of the bourgeois state. Clara Zetkin, Fascism. While basic...
This is the thing. Fascism is a revolutionary movement. It just happens to be the revolutionary movement of the bourgeoisie. Yeah. And by bourgeoisie, you really need to understand, I'm not talking aesthetics. I'm talking those who own the means of production. And in our time, that means in the way that, what's his name? Greek, Mira 25, friend of Slavoj Žižek's. Anyway, cloud feudalism, techno feudalism. Yes, it's techno feudalism, and that's exactly what's happening in the United States specifically. And we are not in the United States. I'm not in the United States, so I can talk about it in a way that I think perhaps I'm slightly freer to talk about it than people who are living in the United States. That's why I'm doing this stream. in case it helps. That's why I'm doing it, okay? So, I will keep doing it. Yeah, there's no establishment left to counter this moment. It's true. I'm gonna play the
Necessities become more and more unaffordable. Home ownership is out of reach, and retirement becomes a pipe dream. The resentment of the working class becomes more pronounced. Since liberalism is incapable of providing a redistributive program to counteract this, people become more and more captivated by anyone, offering them any answer at all. Liberals in Congress have chosen time and time again to side with neo-fascist policies on Israel, on immigration, on trans rights, instead of adopting a program that would threaten capital in any way. Because liberalism is now incapable of making a credible case to the working class, the only side who is even pretending they will fight for workers is winning out. Even our supposed leaders on the left, Bernie Sanders, and the Squad, have left much to be desired in this moment, and have shown us that they are not capable of leading the type of movement that will get us out of this mess. Truly, they don't seem to know what to do any more than we do. They can now see that the reformist leaders are in benevolent accord with the bourgeoisie, and the worst of it is that these masses have now lost their faith not only in the reformist leaders, but in socialism as a whole. Fascism has become a sort of refuge for the politically shelterless. Clara Zetkin, fascism.
Yeah, you saw that happen with in Europe as well with the Corona doubters, because there was no left-wing Corona skepticism. The right hoovered all of these people up, and there were a lot of them. Read Doppelganger by Naomi Klein, perfect example of it. Actually, we're gonna find out if somebody's
Fascism. We now find ourselves at a point where the contradictions of bourgeois democracy have reached a fever pitch, and the electorate has chosen to smash the system that is smashing them to pieces instead of upholding it. Trump might be a piece of shit.
Oh. Yeah, the current regime of the US is completely corrupt in a way that is unprecedented. Alright, I'm gonna take a little break. You're gonna watch this one. You're gonna watch this.
A little bit of what you've been up to. I saw that you did a panel with some of our mutual friends at Jewish Currents, quite a star-studded panel where you waded into the treacherous waters of the election after Gaza. What was it like to talk about that? I noticed that people were not super excited to take a strong position. Yeah, it was tricky.
No, people are not super excited about the choice that faces us in November. It was a great conversation moderated by the magazine Jewish Currents in a church in Brooklyn. It was a bunch of Jews and Muslims on a panel in a church. And we talked about what Gaza has meant for our communities, what's it meant for our politics. It's a really thorny issue because most people in that left crowd, don't want to see a return of Donald Trump, who I know we're going to talk about today, but they don't want to, reward, if that's the right word, an enabler of genocide like Joe Biden. So it's a conversation that will carry on happening between now and November. And at some point, Naomi, you and I should try and have that conversation and get destroyed from one side or the other when we try and get into it. I actually been keeping track of you two, watching what you've been up to. Both of us have been very busy. I know you were in Stockholm with another one of our Zeteo contributors who's about to launch something new for us very soon, Greta Thunberg. What were you up to with Greta?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was in Scandinavia supporting some of the translations for Doppelganger, and saw Greta at one of the Gaza encampments. This one at Stockholm University, and caught up with her there. And it was great to see her. You know, she's been very outspoken about Palestine, taken a ton of flack, does not seem to care one bit. This is sort of the Greta that is not anybody's mascot. You know, she's following her ethics, her heart, and having a big impact.
So you hanging out with Greta is a great segue into a lot of our conversation today, because I think we need to talk about the climate crisis. We've talked a lot about the Gaza crisis, and we will continue doing so. And there's an interconnection between the Gaza crisis and the climate crisis. But I was thinking about this conversation, about this episode of Unshot, not just when I saw you in Stockholm with Greta, but all of the news that's been happening recently, just this past weekend here in the United States, the crazy storms battering Texas and Oklahoma and other states, more than 24, I think almost 24 people killed this past weekend. We had 750,000 people in Texas without power. Even over in Brazil, I believe over 100 people died, hundreds of thousands displaced. Naomi, I always feel like asking you this question. How do you deal with the people who say climate change, it's a problem in the future, when it's happening right now in front of our eyes?
Yeah, which is why I think even just calling it climate change isn't that helpful. I think we need to be talking about climate breakdown. We're in it. There's a way in which, however you started talking about a problem when you were young, you stick with it. I think we are seeing lots of that with Palestine. Even as facts change, people don't change their minds. With climate, I think you have a whole generation of people who thought about it as a future problem, as a grandchildren problem, and now the grandchildren are here, and they're like, it's here, and the costs are enormous. The human costs are enormous, and also the economic costs, which is becoming clearer. Because we have some good new research out that puts a more accurate dollar sign on the costs of inaction, on the costs of procrastination, or on sort of minor action, all of the above. Sure, we'll have some green infrastructure, but we'll also double down on fossil fuels.
I think you're referring to the NBER paper. There's a big National Bureau of Economic Research paper that came out the other week, which showed that the costs, and again, when people talk about it's the future, it's not happening right now, the costs of climate change to the environment, to the economy, I think I've got it here. I just want to read out so I get the numbers exactly right. It's 6 times larger than previously thought. And a 1 degree Celsius increase in global temperature leads to a 12% decline in world GDP. And just to put that in context for our viewers, after the Great Recession, after the financial crash in 2008, we saw a 4% decline in global GDP. In the pandemic year of 2020, we saw a 3% decline in GDP. This paper is saying that the climate crisis is going to cause a 12% decline in global GDP. And I wonder, Naomi, some people are calling this paper a game changer. When you think about even the big capitalists in our society, the billionaires, the big corporate bosses, could this shake them out of their slumber? They care about the bottom line. They care about GDP. Or so they say, forget, the flora and fauna and animals and wildlife. If you tell them there's going to be a 12% fall in GDP thanks to the climate crisis, do you think that will get through?
I think it's tricky. And I'm going to come back to that, because there's a way that that capitalism doesn't do a great job of thinking about its even medium-term interests, because there are always profits to make in the immediate term, right? You can make profits not just selling more oil and gas and coal, but hey, selling lifeboats and water and private security. But this study is a big deal. I don't want to play it down. It is a landmark because the economic modeling that our governments have been working with for a long time that has shown the impacts or the supposed projections of what climate change will cost us has really minimized the costs and given a lot of us have been critiquing these models for a long time for precisely this reason, because they have sent our politicians a message of, well, maybe you can sort of turn the temperature up a little bit, and maybe in countries like the US and Canada, a little warming will be good for crops and things like that. The message has been dangerously unalarming, to be honest. So this this paper has been greeted by a lot of climate scientists saying, finally, we have some economics that actually is more in line with what we know about how nonlinear the climate impacts are going to be. There was another piece of this study that I found really interesting where they said, on the road we're on, which will lead to a projected 3 degrees Celsius of warming, we've already warmed the planet by 1 degree Celsius, that the impact will be, this is a quote from the study, comparable to the economic damage caused by fighting a war domestically and permanently. And so when you think about those storms, in Texas and Arkansas, or what we're seeing in Brazil and Indonesia, or last year in Pakistan, think about how much money is going into not just picking up the pieces from superstorms, but helping farmers deal with their failed crops, right? So you spend billions of dollars recovering just to barely get back to where you were before. So it's that kind of dead weight in the way that war siphons away money into weapons and things that don't benefit people's daily lives. Maybe it creates some jobs, but it's not the kind of investments that increase people's well-being, their healthcare, things like that. So it's that kind of dead weight. It should be a wake-up call, as I said, but the problem is capitalism is stupid, and you need governments to look at the aggregate, right? You need governments to say, it makes way more sense for us collectively to invest in mitigation, in preventing those worse outcomes, because the individual corporations are still going to be fighting for their advantage. And I think that we saw some pretty dramatic evidence of that with this, something else that should be much bigger news than it has been, which was this meeting that took place at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, yeah.
Trump says the quiet parts out loud, right? So he has a meeting with a bunch of oil executives, and he appears to have said, give me $1 billion and I will roll back Biden's entire climate agenda, which is a great deal for them. I mean, the tax breaks alone would be something like $110 billion. So what's $1 billion collectively for an industry where, ExxonMobil made, I think, $31 billion alone in profits, right? So what do you make of that story, Mehdi? What's it all about?
First of all, I'm just wondering if Trump at the dinner table, I believe it was a chopped steak dinner, according to the New York Times, which
I had to look that up.
I mean, Trump loves his meat. It goes with the image. I just wonder if he sat there eating his chopped steak dinner, and did he do a Dr. Evil from Austin Powers? I need $1 billion. But as you say, I mean, it sounds like a lot of money to the oil folks around the table. It's not. Trump knows that. He's a pretend billionaire. He's sitting around the table with real billionaires. And we believe the reporting from the Washington Post and New York Times tells us it was people from Occidental and ExxonMobil and Chevron and, the Harold Hamm, the shale billionaire, and others were at either this meeting or the meeting in Houston, because there's another meeting, Naomi. So you have this meeting in Mar-a-Lago where in April, where he says, let's do a deal, which Jamie Raskin in the House of Representatives, congressman from Maryland, has wanted to investigate and started to try and investigate, although the House is not controlled by Democrats. And then the Senate Democrats have opened the investigation. But the day before last week, they opened their investigation. Trump has this meeting, I think, in Houston, a fundraiser for one of his PACs, where
in the middle of the storm, it must be said.
Oh yeah, what a great timing to turn up in Houston, Texas, to talk about the importance of fossil fuels giving to him. And I think he said in this meeting, it was a public meeting, and he said, just be generous. And I think there's a debate over how legal this is, because obviously under unfortunately, American right-wing jurisprudence on the First Amendment suggests you can do this stuff. But it looks so bad. I mean, it's almost caricature big oil. It's like a scene out of a Hollywood movie, isn't it, Naomi? You've got the presidential candidate sitting in his, whatever that is, wedding holiday resort in Florida, eating chopped steak with 20 big oil executives saying, give me $1 billion and I'll make you $100 billion. I mean, but it's the way American politics is done in 2024, especially on the right, is it not?
I think across the board, but the thing about Trump is he does say the quiet part out loud. And so the scandal is, well, this is supposed to be more genteel, right? You're supposed to raise the money. We're not supposed to say exactly what it's not. You're not supposed to make it a return on investment quid pro quo. And so I guess this is what's being investigated, is if he did cross the line or whether this is still on the side of legal. It shouldn't be legal if it is legal. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is, raises the question to me also, why isn't this a bigger story? it would seem to me that this is the kind of story that would hurt Trump more than some of the issues that Democrats have been more focused on, because it kind of erodes his brand, right? I mean, his brand is little guy, drain the swamp, and here he is, come to my swamp, have the chopstick, which I think is just fancy meatloaf, by the way.
But you can't. By the way, you can't come to the swamp unless you pay $250,000 per person, according to the Post reporting. So you got $250,000 tickets. This is not the little guy turning up. And you're right. I do worry that Democrats. I'm not someone who says you can only do the economic attack. I think you have to fight them, and we've talked about this on the turf of democracy, on all the issues that you've written about in Doppelganger. But I do think the Bernie argument, and I know you were a big Bernie person, as was I in my own way in 2020 and 2016. The economic populist attack from the left has to be done. And when Joe Biden, talks about reducing drug prices, guess what? It does really well in focus groups and polls. And when you talk about big oil, people, not just young people, don't like big oil. Surprise, surprise. So when you have Donald Trump in a private room asking for money, it's just so brazen. I gave a talk recently to a group of Indian Muslims, namely talking about Modi and India. And I said, look, we've reached a point now where Indian corruption is still kind of done behind the scenes. American corruption's work. It's like out there in the open, as you say, saying the quiet part loud, just demanding money in exchange. And he also, by the way, I should point out for our viewers, because this is a discussion, as we just mentioned, that the election, Biden versus Trump, a lot of people watching this will say they're as bad as each other. On the climate, that's just not true. You have Donald Trump, even now, saying nonsense about wind farms. I think he was ranting last week in Houston about wind farms causing cancer and all sorts of nonsense that he pushes. He's also the guy who said climate change hoax and all of the rest of that. So it's deeply frustrating to see, as you say.
What do I want to say? So there's this idea that Trump says the quiet part out loud. And while that's true, he doesn't quite say it as loud as his little first buddy over there. This is still not everything, huh? This is still nothing, in fact.
Candidate with doing openly corrupt things, saying openly crazy things, and yet it's number 17, number 24 in our list of major news stories right now?
I don't think it's an either or, but I do think that it is the kind of issue that can get traction. People do have a strong sense that elites are conspiring against them. This is why, this is what I write about it in my most recent book, about how the right get the facts wrong, but the feelings right. And that's what conspiracy culture is all about, right? It's like there is a room somewhere, like the Davos elites are plotting. So that's why it's, to me, kind of extraordinary that the Democrats wouldn't be going all the way on, there's the room, they are conspiring. It isn't, to drain kids of their adrenochrome, but it is to make sure that you can't afford to, pay the bills. And people are feeling the impacts. And I mean, the oil companies must have been just so stunned, because they're not hurting. They're posting record profits.
Mm-hmm. Right, but why not the Fediverse? So when I see something like this about this project, was it Free Our Feeds project of expanding the Blue Sky protocol? Blue Sky is Blue Sky is privately owned. And yes, it uses a protocol that you could use for interoperability. Well, why not just use the Fediverse? So what's the point? When the Fediverse is right there. Okay, this is a lot. But thank you for posting it, I guess. You seem funny. Yeah, I heard about you already. Yeah.
No clue. No clue. No, not even a guess. No clue.
4.
4?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Well, because we do pro-life work.
Right.
Yeah.
What is a uterine firewall?
That's where the baby implants.
Probably know more about my body than I know about mine.
Well, it's in the vagina. It can cause bladder infections. Try to drink a lot of cranberries if that happens.
That's right.
Is that right?
Yeah, that is right.
Oh my gosh! Hey! 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 Hey!
What does an ovary filter do?
It's where the egg comes out to go into the fallopian tube.
This
it releases
is
the
awesome.
egg to go
I
across
really
the
like
gap to
this.
the fallopian tube.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right.
Because if you
She's
don't have the
amazing.
filter, then
She's amazing. This is great. Where's the rest? See more videos. Amazing. Gen Z is holding. The right-wing ecosystem clutched their pearls, conveniently ignoring a glaring fact. Yeah. So this is interesting, right?
Luigi pulled the trigger. The GOP handed him the gun. Gen Z is holding the architects of their suffering accountable. By Liz Plank. Join our movement.
So why is this interesting? It's because right after this, you had the whole inauguration mess and the crazy rollout. Like, he was just in time to plant a seed of doubt in the narrative of dominance. Let me clip that. What makes Luigi a saint is the very simple fact that he did all this in December, like right before the inauguration, and we had time to fall in love with him, and then the media realized it and they kind of stopped talking about him, and then the inauguration happens. And the thing is, without Luigi, the inauguration could have happened in a way that gave people like shock and awe, like completely like, what? Is that the reality now? But Luigi fired the first shot in the class warfare, and that is why we are in a way much more ready for that. And Gaza, of course, like, we've been radicalized already, and Luigi, in a way, he made a beautiful, I'm not saying good, but miraculous act, and that's why he's a saint. And then this inauguration happens, right? And instead of being, in a way, shocked into like just denial, although many people are, but they'll come around. And what's going to help them come around? What's going to help them come around faster? Luigi, in a way, Luigi already gave us the, the ammunition of resistance. Like, the seed was already planted. So we were not surprised. So he did the first shot in the class war, and then the elites fired back. The oligarchy fired back through Donald Trump and through basically bringing back fascism. And yeah, it's predictable. Like, we know this is kind of obvious. But Luigi over here fired the first shot, allegedly. And maybe I think that made the rollout of the fascist project 2025 less convincing, less shocking. It gave us a little bit more time to react appropriately. So yeah, don't let his work be in vain, and react appropriately.
Your subscription fuels fearless reporting, holds the powerful accountable, and amplifies the issues that matter most. By subscribing, you're taking direct action to create change. Thank you for being here. Let's keep building something incredible together.
I don't know if
when Luigi Mangione gunned down a healthcare CEO in cold blood, the internet didn't recoil in horror. It erupted in applause. The entire right-wing ecosystem clutched their pearls, conveniently ignoring a glaring fact. They created the very circumstances that create this moment. Overnight, Mangione became a folk hero, a modern-day Robin Hood with a gun. But his actions weren't just a shocking tragedy. They were the inevitable consequence of a system that lawmakers built and upheld. For decades, they ignored the cries of a generation forced to navigate an unrelenting cycle of gun violence, climate despair, and economic precarity. Now, that generation is turning its rage toward the architects of their suffering. Gen Z has been begging lawmakers to take their safety seriously for years. Whether it's about gun violence, climate change, or health care, their calls for action have been met with inaction or outright disdain. Nowhere is the hypocrisy of lawmakers more glaring than in their condemnation of Mangione's act, an act made possible by the very laws they championed. Mangione pulled the trigger, but lawmakers built the system that handed him the gun. Let's remember that this is a generation shaped by the fallout of Columbine, where over 338,000 of their peers have experienced gun violence at school. Everyone under 25 knows someone who was in a school shooting. They're so common that many students have now survived more than one. That's a terrifying reality that conservative politicians have never taken seriously. These kids were handed bulletproof backpacks and subjected to lockdown drills, all while watching lawmakers refuse to pass meaningful gun control. The message was clear: we won't protect you. Figure it out. Mangione pulled the trigger, but lawmakers built the system that handed him the gun. Now, the school shooter generation has grown up, and they're furious. Mangione's act, however horrifying, represents the rage of a generation forced to fend for themselves. It's not just about CEOs or healthcare. It's about decades of watching their peers die while those in power sat idly by. Lawmakers ignored calls for reform after Columbine, Sandy Hook, and Parkland. Instead, they prioritized the gun lobby over grieving families and public safety. They chose CEOs over kids, not just on gun violence, but in a healthcare system that profits from their injuries. The average medical cost for a gun violence victim is $31,000, amounting to $2.5 billion annually for injuries that could have been prevented. Ashton Gamblin, a mass shooting survivor, estimates her medical bills alone have surpassed $1 million. Gun violence doesn't just take lives, it can bankrupt the families of those who survive. Their inaction built this system, and now they're reaping the consequences of their neglect. Take Ted Cruz, who wasted no time condemning Mangione as sick and afflicted with a, and quote, mental disease, end quote. Yet Cruz has spent his career blocking measures that could have prevented Mangione from accessing a gun. He even voted against the bipartisan Safer Communities Act in 2022, the first federal gun control legislation in nearly 30 years, which aimed to close the loopholes Mangione exploited to acquire a weapon. Or Nino Mangione, the alleged shooter's cousin and a GOP congressman from Maryland, who sent his thoughts and prayers to Brian Thompson's family. As a legislator, he supported laws that weaken gun safety, including HB 1178, which allows handgun permit holders to carry weapons in state parks and forests. His performative grief is undercut by his active role in perpetuating the conditions that make such violence inevitable. Fox News host Laura Ingraham expressed horror at anyone suggesting Mangione's anger might have been valid. Yet, for years, she amplified Republican lawmakers who oppose gun control, framing reform as a threat to constitutional rights. After the Parkland school shooting in 2018, she even mocked survivor David Hogg, a scandal so egregious it led advertisers to pull their sponsorships. Ingram's performative outrage does little to mask her long history of vilifying those who fight for gun safety. Even Vice President-elect J.D. Vance recently described school shootings as a fact of life, while continuing to support laws that make them more likely. And then there's billionaire Peter Thiel, who fumbled through a bizarre interview attempting to condemn Mangione's actions while personally pouring millions of dollars into supporting the lawmakers responsible for making shootings like this more probable. Thiel didn't just donate $10 million to J.D. Vance's Senate campaign. He also bankrolled Blake Masters, another staunch opponent of gun reform. Masters didn't just blame black people for gun violence. He also opposes federal firearms registries and any form of gun safety legislation. Masters even built his own ghost gun and shared images of it online. You know, the exact type of weapon Mangione had in his possession and probably used in the shooting. How are we supposed to take these guys seriously? For Cruz, Nino Mangione, Ingram, Vance, and Thiel, their condemnation of Mangione's actions is hypocrisy in its highest form. Each of them actively contributed to the system that made it easier for Mangione to obtain and deploy the weapon they now decry. Cruz and Vance cast the votes. Nino Mangione wrote the laws. Ingram amplified the propaganda. Thiel funded it all. And now they have the audacity to act like they hold the moral high ground. They're shocked that the system they created has turned on them, but they shouldn't be. Each of them actively contributed to the system that made it easier for Mangione to obtain and deploy the weapon they now decry. The GOP's public outrage does nothing to absolve them of their complicity. They are the architects of this mess. They allowed gun violence to flourish, leaving Gen Z to grow up in a world where shootings are as common as school assemblies. Now they're horrified that some of the children they are traumatized and didn't protect are coming for people like them. Lawmakers can feign horror, but they shouldn't be surprised. They raised the school shooter generation, and now that generation is holding them accountable. Whether through protests, movements, or tragically violence, Gen Z is making it clear. The system you built is broken, and we won't let you ignore it anymore.
True. Okay, so yeah, this first stream, I don't know what to say. It's nice, but I'll just do it a little bit every day, okay? I'm gonna stream from 7 till 9, at least 2 hours. And let's see from there. I'm gonna take a break now. Thank you for that, like one person who watched.